honored and touched by your willingness to listen to me one more time. I'm sure it won't surprise you to learn that I'm an avid reader, but most of you probably don't know that my first love when it comes to the written word is not novels or plays or even poetry. I love newspapers. Just about every day of my life as a sentient being has begun with the thunk of a newspaper landing on my driveway and the small thrill of easing a rubber band off a crisp, fresh, folded newspaper. Like most newspaper devotees, I have rituals. At 6 o'clock every morning, I start a pot of coffee and then retrieve my 2 daily papers from the driveway. During basketball season, I open the San Jose Mercury first and quickly check the sports page to see which games I can watch while I make dinner that night. Then I scan the headlines to see which news has made it above the fold. I love the days when I have time to go slowly through every section, stopping to read any story that grabs me. But no matter what, I always find time for my favorite reading, the New York Times obituary page. There's nothing morbid about my interest in obituaries. It's not really the deaths that interest me, it's the lives. I love the stories. A well-crafted obituary is a sort of jewel box-sized biography, the essence of a life in a few paragraphs. And it can be a history lesson or a sociological study. Who gets an obituary in the New York Times? And what does that tell us about our country and our era? Roger Ailes, the founder of Fox News, got 2/3 of a page a few weeks ago. But Roger Moore, the James Bond for at least some people in this room, got even more. And Mary Tyler Moore, whose television show in the 1970s made her an unlikely feminist icon, got more ink than either of the Rogers. But not everyone with a New York Times obituary is famous. Some are there for one long past glorious moment of bravery or goodness, like Larry Colburn, who became an 18-year-old American hero when he intervened with 2 comrades to halt the massacre of unarmed Vietnamese civilians in My Lai in 1968. Some obituary subjects are famous for the impact they had on someone else's life. Just last week, Roger Boucher, that's a bad run of time for Rogers, I guess. Roger Boucher, the Occidental College professor who sparked young Barack Obama's interest in politics, died in Los Angeles. He was, Obama said when he invited him to the White House, a wonderful, wonderful teacher. You can find every kind of story in the obituaries: mystery, romance, history, tragedy. Here's the headline of a half-page obituary that appeared last week. Barbara Smith Conrad, singer at Center of Integration Dispute, dies at 79. In 1957, Barbara Louise Smith was cast as Dido in Dido and Aeneas at the recently integrated University of Texas. When a state legislator heard that a black woman would be singing the part alongside a white Aeneas, he threatened to cut off the university's appropriation. Barbara Smith lost the part. It was the stuff of a Puccini opera. There's really nothing on TV or in movies or in contemporary fiction that you won't find on the obituary page. If Shakespeare were writing today, he wouldn't need to read Plutarch's Lives or Holland Chronicle for his material. He could go straight to the New York Times obituaries. But my goal tonight is not to convince you that you should become a reader of obituaries, though I do think anyone's life and prose style can be vastly improved by the daily reading of a good newspaper. What I really want you to think about is the transforming moment that you'll find at the heart of so many of these life stories. I like to call it the moment that changed everything. It usually goes something like this, and this is from an obituary in this morning's paper. Fred Kummerow, the biochemist who first alerted the world to the dangers of trans fat. Professor Kummerow, the son of working-class German immigrants, said he would likely have gone to work in the cement block factory where his father worked had he not received a chemistry set from his uncle on his 12th birthday. Or this wonderful story about Randall Forsberg, who arrived in Sweden as a young bride and took the only job she could find as a typist at the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute. Typing was boring, so she started reading and thinking about what she was typing. Soon, she was writing papers herself on the nuclear weapons race. Eventually, she earned a PhD from MIT in International Studies, became an expert in nuclear proliferation, and helped start the nuclear freeze movement. Or this from last month's obituary for the Oscar-winning filmmaker Jonathan Demme. In high school, he worked in a kennel and an animal hospital. Wanting to be a veterinarian, he attended the University of Florida with that in mind until he failed chemistry, at which point he went to the university newspaper, discovered it had no movie critic, and assumed the job himself, he said, so that he could get into movies free. Then there's Eva Crane, a PhD in nuclear physics, who was given a box of bees as a wedding present in wartime London and ended up abandoning physics and spending the next 60 years studying bees. There's Geraldine Ross, whose career as a therapist helping hundreds of people overcome anxiety disorders all started because, as a 25-year-old teacher on vacation in Austria, she was seized with a sudden fear of heights. She decided to do something about it. The moment that changed everything might be a painful but ultimately triumphant one, as it was in the end for Barbara Smith Conrad. She didn't sing Dido at the University of Texas, but after hearing about what happened at Texas, Eleanor Roosevelt paid her way to New York, where Harry Belafonte introduced her to his friends in the arts, and she began a long career as an opera singer. Her final performance at the Met was in Aida, alongside Placido Domingo. There might be two intertwined moments that change everything. Just yesterday, I saw this headline: John Mace, 97, coaxed singers and fought to marry. The first moment that changed everything for John Mace came in 1948, when, as a student at Juilliard, he met Richard Dorr, and, as he put it a few years ago in an interview, my heart went pitter-pat. They had been a couple for 61 years when the second moment came. They decided they wanted to be married, so they became the face of an online advertising campaign for a group called Free to Marry. They were a YouTube sensation. And finally, in 2012, when they could legally marry in New York, they tied the knot at the ages of 84 and 92. Every life has these unexpected and transforming moments. Your life will. Maybe it already has. But here's the thing that presents a particular challenge for a Castilleja girl. You can't actually plan these moments. I know you have just spent your formative years in a school where students love their planners almost as much as their cell phones. You are all going off to wonderful colleges because of your careful planning. Commencement tomorrow will be perfect because every moment has been meticulously planned and interminably rehearsed. Planning is good, but you can't plan for the moment that will change your life, entering it into your planner with just the right color coding. And you might not know for years that it was the moment that changed everything. Fred Cummerow couldn't have known that his birthday gift would someday lead to research that would save thousands of lives. Geraldine Ross certainly didn't plan to develop a sudden fear of heights, and from that, a career helping others. I'm sure in their wildest dreams as young men, John Mace and Richard Dorr didn't plan to become stars on something called the internet. What was the internet? And then get married. And Professor Bochet was just being a good teacher. He didn't plan to spark the moment that changed everything for a future president, and the future president probably didn't know at that moment that his life was on a new and historic path. You can't plan everything. But here's what you can do. Live your life with a kind of joyful readiness for whatever comes your way. To borrow a term from our Puritan past, be a prepared soul. It's good to be focused, intent on the path you have chosen, but don't be afraid to leave that path. If you flunk chemistry, go to the movies. If you find yourself with a job that seems boring, find a way to make it interesting, to learn something. If you get a box of bees for a wedding present, well, let's skip that one. You've heard a lot in recent years about following your dreams or finding your passion. My message for you tonight is different. Just be open. Be ready to stop following one dream if a better one comes along. Be ready for your passion to find you.